Perfect.
Okay.
First, I'd like to start by saying thanks for having me.
Pardon?
I'd like to say thanks for having me. It really means a lot. And I'd like to get a bit more out of it than just the English project in general. So,
It's an English project or historic?
English.
Right.
Yep. So, what was your life like before the Holocaust?
Not before the Holocaust. Well, I was born in 1928, and of course I had until primary school a reasonable kindergarten, etc. Lived in a small niche city. It was quite a city, but compared to any Australian city, it was a small city. My father had a shop there, a menswear shop, one of the main streets. And yeah, the beginning was very nice. We used to go out on hikes and playing football. My father loved football. But he died when I was 6-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my sister was born. I was 10-year-old when he died.
No. 36.
6 years. That's not 6 when he died. And had a sister of a few months old sister. Apparently, in those days, somebody had a lung inflammation. They couldn't cure it.
Mm-hmm.
He played football, drank a lot of cold water soon after it, sweating.
Mm-hmm.
He got a lung inflammation. He died. And after that, we moved into my grandfather's farm. My grandfather was a farmer. He had quite a largish farm, not far from the city, about 6 kilometers in the mine highway.
And what was the city that you lived in?
Košice.
Košice. It's called Košice again.
That's spelled K-O-S-I-C-E.
In 1950 years, in 1938, the Hungarians got it. That's when Hitler wanted to please the Hungarians, and he gave southern Slovakia to become modern Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
Our city was part of it. We were a border city.
So basically, before the war,
As before the war.
Before the war, your life was normal,
Normal, yeah,
And
normal.
except for the fact that
I went to
obviously
a Jewish school,
Mhm.
reform school.
reform school.
No,
Yeah, except for obviously the fact that you're.
No, but if you want to
Yours.
talk about prejudice, you can talk about life on the farm because there was prejudice on the farm
Okay.
with the children of the workers. And
I was
no,
gonna
no,
s-
no, not the children. Well, they joined in.
Okay. What's some?
What happened in secondary school in Hungary? In Hungary, the boys had to do 1 day a week army cadetship training. They got a uniform, a gun, and they marched the streets or the oval. And we Jewish boys got a yellow armband instead, and a bucket and the broom to sweep the streets where my classmates, non-Jewish classmates, marched in uniform. And they were encouraged by their officers, it was all in uniform, who happened to be our teachers, to ridicule us. That was hurting.
So how old were you when you were doing that?
Well, year 11.
Year 11.
No, it wasn't.
No,
You were 11, you were in camp.
Well, it was a different type of thing. It
It
was
was the
actually,
first 3 years of high school.
So for like sort of 13, 14, 15.
yes,
15 was in
before
camp.
Bar Mitzvah. Before Bar Mitzvah, yeah. And that was hurting, especially for my grandfather's farm. He did not employ workers, he employed share farmers. In other words, there were 5 families living on the farm. There were 5 cottages beside our house on the farm. It was a big farm. And they had complete families. One of the families had 2 boys with the same age, or 1 boy, 2 families, 2 on each family, 1 boy, same age, same class, everything. And they were quite, and we were the closest friends. When it came to this cadetship training, they were quite happy to join the ridiculers. That was hurting very much. But here are my best friends. Virtually the parents are living on my grandfather's farm. And it was just ridiculing it yet. It wasn't physical yet.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was an Orthodox fellow, and after my father's death, I became Orthodox, wearing tzitzis, but not outside, things like you see it here sometimes, if you go on Glen Island, but inside, they say, they started to meet me, and we want to see the tzitzis. And 2 or 3 boys approached me and started to pull it out from behind the trousers. And it was very nasty. I had a sister, Trudy, who was not shy to fight even the boys. She took them on sometimes. But it showed anti-Semitism must be the oldest hatred in the world. Because it's well before Germany occupied Hungary. In those days we heard already that Slovak Jews have been taken away to don't know where, we did not know where, concentration camp. And then we become Hungarian. I've getting the stories mixed up.
That's all right. What's
Going, just read what you wrote so far.
that's
No,
all right.
we've got
That's
the
all right. His
question
speech.
I asked you, Dad.
Just,
Oh, okay.
okay, you answered kind of the next 2, but
Yeah, that's all right.
did you try and escape before the war, or did you just stay put?
No. escaping from the concentration camp, it was impossible.
Before,
No, before the
that.
war, Dad.
Before that,
Before the war.
oh, there
Before the
was
war.
no reason to escape. Where do you escape for before the war? We didn't realize. It's one thing which one has to realize, that news didn't travel as fast as it travels now. Now anything happens on the other side of the world, you see it on the TV as it happening.
Mm-hmm.
In those days, it took a few weeks before you saw it. But one thing, when we became Hungarians, 1938, there was anti-Semitism, but the Jews felt reasonably safe, the Hungarians. And it must have been safe, because that gave a reasons for Germany to occupy Hungary or send army to Hungary. And when Germany occupied Hungary, we were ordered into ghetto.
So just because Adam probably doesn't understand what a ghetto is, what
You know
that
what a
means.
ghetto is?
So maybe just
A
explain what
ghetto
that means.
usually in other cities like Warsaw, in Poland, in the worst part of the city, they moved all the Jews into it, and sometimes 3 or 4 families lived in one flat, 5 families, crowded. And it was fenced up, and they couldn't get out from there. And they had to work mainly for the war machinery, uniforms, etc., and factories producing things. But Hungary didn't go into it. Slovakia had ghettos and Poland had ghettos. Hungary did not. So Germany, that's why Germany occupied Hungary. They created a ghetto in a disused brick factory. The population of our city, Jewish population of our city, was about 9 to 10,000 people. 9 to 10,000 people moving into a brick factory. The only housing there was the sheds where they dried the bricks. Made the clay bricks, they dry them and then they fire them to be red. And in those sheds, wasn't very nice. An interesting thing happened just before we moved into the brick factory. A cousin of my mother escaped Slovakia with a baby and her husband. He came to us. And they went to Budapest. They left the baby with us. Because in Budapest they could buy papers, false passports, documentations. They did. And during that time, while they were in Budapest, we had to move into the ghetto. And the baby was with us. We had to take the baby into the ghetto.
Mm-hmm. So how old were you when that happened? Was that in 1939, 40s?
No, was born in
No, it
1928.
was in 44.
44.
44. So it was at the,
Yeah.
as I remember, at the end of the war
Yeah.
was when,
Yeah.
so the Germans
Oh,
didn't actually come into,
Passport mitzvah.
yeah, so the Germans didn't actually come into Hungary till towards the end of the war.
Yeah. It's
They
German.
had their own fascist government in Hungary.
Yeah,
See, Slovakia, they didn't have to occupy Slovakia because Slovakia cooperated.
No, Hungary.
Hungary,
did.
Hungary did.
Uh,
Hungary cooperated.
no, I'm talking in the Slovakia they did not, but we became Hungarian.
Oh, okay,
Part of Slovakia became Hungary.
okay.
Hungary did not cooperate with them on that issue.
No, on the Jewish issue,
Or
but
to-
they
to-
had
to
their
start-
own fascist government. But they did occupy Slovakia. They occupied all of Czechoslovakia.
Yeah, but Hungary was not occupied. Only when on that on 44 Pesach, they occupied Hungary as well, the
Yeah,
Germans.
yeah.
And that's when the ghettos were started up.
All right.
Now it wasn't. We were told, don't worry, you'll be taken into protective custody.
Okay.
Anyhow,
So Fred, just hold on a second
let
there.
him ask his question.
Let's see.
you want to ask?
So you, in terms of the stuff that you wanted to ask about what happened before the
We got
war,
all of it.
we've got all of it. Okay, so he's broken up his questions into before the war, during, and then afterwards. So in terms of during the war, what have you got there?
Where were you during the war? But we've got that. basically.
Well, no,
No, you
you
don't.
don't.
You know?
We're just starting that now. Okay, because now, as Fred's family moved into the ghetto, that's the start. In terms of the war in Hungary, even though the war had started already in 1939, it wasn't actually in Hungary where Fred was living. So it was only in
The war was
1944 is when the war came to Hungary. All right. So now you can ask these questions about where he was during the war and the rest of just ask him all
How,
of them.
how long were you in the ghetto for, Dad?
only about 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
And then?
Mhm. And then what happened after that?
Wagons pulled in. 1/4 of the population was loaded up on the transport.
So they were
The
on,
ghetto population,
on trains?
cattle wagons.
Yeah, on the cattle wagons?
Yeah.
And went off. 4 transports were taken to wherever. We were on number 3 transport. 80 people in a wagon, a cattle wagon, only stand in place, and a bucket in the corner. It was horrible condition. Men, women, but mainly old men and women of all ages. Because the men were called up with their army, but they didn't, they were part of the army, the Jewish men, but they didn't not in fighting units, but in working units. They were right in the front, digging trenches. And those people, really, very few of them came back as well, because the enemy sees the uniform, although they had yellow armband, they don't see the yellow armband. And they're coming there, so they were shot, most of them were shot.
So you went on the cattle.
On cattle wagons too.
How long
It
was
was
that
about
journey?
4 days.
4
travel.
days.
Yeah. Which you could make today by train. We made it by car actually, I think. In 4 hours,
Right, it took 4 days.
4 days. It, Auschwitz from Košice, straight north. not up.
And was the train moving the whole time, or did it stop? Very down.
I think the train stopped or took on railway sidings not to interrupt the normal
Trains.
train timetable. You probably heard of Eichmann.
No, he hasn't.
Eichmann, it was a German officer whose job was to arrange all the transportation of the Jews from wherever, and that was this time in Hungary. And his order was, doesn't matter what you do, do not interrupt the normal train timetable, because they were scared that there could be uprising or demonstration if they know what's happening. So that's why it took so long.
Yeah.
Because very often the train just pulled off onto railway siding and stayed a few hours. Then we moved on. And we didn't see the trains passing, but that must have been the reason. And it is recorded as such in history books. And all right, we are out after 4 days.
What were conditions like in the cattle cars?
Done?
What was it like in the cattle car? You
In
said
the
it
cattle
was,
cars,
you could just only stand up.
standing place, really. Luckily, when we arrived to the destination, Birkenau, Auschwitz, train station, they opened the door. We didn't have any dead people, because in some of the other wagons they had bodies already. And they opened the wagons, very bright platforms. It was during the night, almost blinding lights and loud commands, Raus in German, in Hungarian, in Slovak, and in dog language as well, dogs barking. And even bullets were, you could hear shooting, but I don't know if they shot there anyone at that time. I didn't see any bodies, but maybe just shooting into the air, I don't know. We were commanded to form 2 columns, men on one side and women on the other side. And there were then selections. But also a reasonable civilized advice came that young mothers with young children should hand over their children to grandparents if there are any. So you can go to work, then at the weekend we shall all meet each other. So my mother handed over my sister. My 3 aunties handed over 4 babies from 4.5 months to 4.5 years to the grandparents. And my mother even wanted me to go with them. One, they wouldn't probably have me, and I didn't go. And even my sister from there, from the other side, yelled, "Don't come, I can help Oma," that's grandmother, with the children. So she was the eldest. So I stayed. And then selection started of men who is fit or who is not. One went one side, the other went the other side. I was selected on one side. Did not know what it meant at the time. And yeah, all of us who were selected were a younger generation, and adult younger generation, no children. I found out later that I was the youngest in the group. Luckily, I was taller than the average at that time. Like my sons
Mm-hmm.
were starving. I know, and we went out marching in the school, even in the school.
Mm-hmm.
Was all, the tall were always in the front row, I was always in the front row marching.
Mm-hmm. And so you were about 16 then, yes? Is that right?
No, he was 15.
15.
15.
Okay.
And 44 years.
It was before October. It was just after Pesach. He was
Yeah.
15.
15.
15. And they took us in for showers, for delousing. We went into a huge building, big hall, benches were there, and we were ordered to put all our clothes there, and we shall find them when we come back from the shower. So we went in, we had a shower, and come out from the showers, all bodily hair was shaven, and the new name, a tattoo that's all. It was the name after that. A 10567. You had to know it, you had to remember it.
Alert from Microsoft.
For roll calls. Come on, and so we come out shaven. All the clothes have gone except striped uniform, pajamas, like pajama stripes. Was there, and the only thing was ours, what's left there, were the shoes. So, God help me remember. And then when we all went through it again, they marched us into about 3.5 kilometers away to the Birkenau concentration camp.
So you know,
It
Birkenau
was-
and Auschwitz are right next to each other. They're the
No,
same.
it's 3.5 kilometers away from
Well, that's right next to each other.
the Birkenau concentration camp. It's a huge camp with huge tin barracks, corrugated iron barracks. So huge that in the middle you could drive a trucks through it, but on both sides of the there were 4-story high bunks, 12 people abreast, and just wood,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. But we didn't spend much time on the bunks, just night, early in the morning, late at night virtually, just standing and roll calls all the time. Went on for about two weeks or so. Just calling the number and to say that you are there. On one of these roll calls, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, there was selection for certain skills. Among the skills, they were also looking for some people who can look after horses. my hand went up. I knew horses. I loved horses. I rode horses as a little boy, even without a saddle. We had horses. And I was lucky. I was selected. And
This is in Auschwitz already.
And from there, all the people with skills we then marched to Auschwitz. Now, Auschwitz was different. Coming from Birkenau to Auschwitz, it's a different world. 2-story brick buildings and quite decent. Music at the gate, orchestra. They always playing there. And the dormitories were big, but the bunks had only 3-story single bunks. Each bunk had a straw mattress, a straw pillow, and a blanket. Easy. It's a couple hundred people in one of the dormitories. I was on the top bunk, went on the top bunk. In the bunk there was a Polish Catholic priest. So Poles were also involved in non-Jews, political prisoners. And so when we came there, it wasn't necessary from that transport we went in, but other people from different transports. And from there we went every day to the paddock where the horses are kept. I was looking after the horse, the commandant's horse, and the pony. And the others were looking after for the other officers' horses. No. The luck was that when you work with animals, they get fed, you can help yourself to get food as well. They give them beets or mix them up. Food, fodder is enough there to pick some for yourself. So we are reasonably well fed, reasonably strong, our group. We're the lucky ones. And that's another thing. They did distribute cigarettes. This is not a commercial. I'm not being paid for it. I have never smoked. They did distribute cigarettes. And some people sold their food for cigarettes. And I bought food. That also helped.
Danny might have some questions to ask you.
In terms of during
It's covering all day.
covering all bases,
Yeah.
what about, so in terms of what you've got that you wanted to find out about what happened during the war, he's covering things?
Well, one thing he didn't mention
Well,
is
he hasn't
that
finished
the day,
yet.
the day after he got there, he found out that his sister, who had been handed over, had been killed. So that was,
And that's after a couple of days there.
before that.
I asked them, already people were there longer. See the flame? No, I mean they asked me,
Oh,
see
okay.
the flame? actually.
So do you understand what he's saying now?
Yeah.
Yeah, the crematorium were always working. Excellent. For our group, an SS officer, a real sadist, was in charge. Always with a whip. And when we marched, just used to whip people or something. A real sadist. The same fellow one day called me, come to Jude, come you boy. He took me to his home, chop some wood, carry up the wood, and they lived just on the outskirts of Auschwitz city. And he told her, he said, if you try to escape, I'll kill you. So don't have any funny business. And I came there, went up to the house first. The lady was very nice, asked my name, so I told her my name. No, Ihre Name, your name. And told her, Fred Steiner. Herr Steiner, Mr. Steiner, you want a cup of coffee? No, different world altogether. Accepted the coffee and she put some biscuits with it. And 2 minutes she died. Wasn't much talking, but it hit me. Virtually more than me asking question, but how did she feel? Did she know what's going on just a few kilometers away? But she saw the wall, the big wall, which the concentration camp had. She saw the flames from the window. Did she ask the right question? Did she get the right answer? I always, when I talk somehow, I always want to believe that maybe she didn't get the right answer. Maybe she did not know. But it's a killing factor there. I don't know why, but I want to believe that there were people who did not know. Makes my life easier, I suppose. Went back. A couple of days later, I filled my trousers full of raw potatoes. Because raw potatoes, you never realize that it's, when you're hungry, it tastes beautiful. So when I came home, I said, I'll never cook a potato again. Eat raw potatoes. Don't try it, it's awful. When you are hungry, empty stomach, it's nice. And yeah, they found the raw potato. So me, I had to empty my trousers. A lot of potatoes there. And they beat me. Come back. I passed out, they brought me with a bucket of water. Then friends did some of my work just to keep me going. But still working with the horses was reasonably well. What kept us really going there in Auschwitz? That from about September onwards, we could hear the Soviet war machinery coming closer and closer and closer. So we hoped we'd be soon liberated.
So this was September in 1944, yeah?
Yeah. That we'll be soon liberated. Yes, the camp was liberated, but before the Russians came, all able-bodied people were put on a march in January, 7th of January. I had a friend who worked with us with the horses, became sick about 2 weeks earlier, and he finished up in hospital in Auschwitz. I went to see him. I said, George, get up. I can't sit up. Because nobody ever came out alive from the hospital. Doctors used to carry out experiments. He said, Fred, I can't. Looks like the Russians came the last day so quick that they didn't have time to kill them. He was liberated by the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
He fought for 5 months with the partisans against the Germans. Anyhow, back to. So we were all put on march, going west. January, very cold, snow. We were the last to join the marches because we had to wait with the horses for the officers to pick them up. So by the time we joined the marches, the snow was red. So anybody who fell were not allowed to give him a hand to get up or anything. Just got a bullet. And there must have been a lot of them. As we went on further, already Polish peasants on hand truck were picking up the bodies. And so just had to go. We just stopped for a rest only where the guards, our SS guards, could find shelter for themselves, and they left us on the road, just resting on the snow.
This march was called the March of Death, actually. That's why they have March of the Living.
Anyhow, after a couple of weeks marching, we arrived to Buchenwald, concentration camp. That was in Germany. If Auschwitz was terrible, Buchenwald was shocking. First of all, in Auschwitz, the hygienic conditions were good. In Buchenwald, zilch. We started to have little crows on us, picking
Lice.
lice and fleas and everything. Yes. And wasn't very nice. And very little food. No work. But every day, bodies were carried out in the morning from the barrack. Again, hope was there. So every day bombers are coming, bombing Germany. Larger numbers, more frequently, every day. That went on. So we knew the war must finish very soon. Didn't happen to us. The march is down to Weimar, which is about 12 kilometers from south. They put us this time on open wagons, good wagons. And the train started to move and stopped. And all of a sudden, and moved on again and stopped on all of a sudden. Oh, they also had 2 wagons of Russian POWs there among us. And all the SS were Ukrainian volunteers, Ukrainians, which belonged to the Soviet Union. They volunteered to be SS, black uniform SS with the Nazis. And we had about 4 weeks on the transport. Germany was thinking they were nowhere to take us. And one day, the Russians and the guards have disappeared. I don't know why, what happened to them. Whether the guards wanted the POWs' uniforms, or they didn't want witnesses, because they spoke the same language, came from the same country, the Soviet Union. We went on a little bit longer. And again, just resting on another railway siding, we have SS men sitting on the side of the wagon, and says, "Oh, you gentlemen speak Hungarian, imperfect Hungarian." An SS man. I was good to you, wasn't I? So then we started to, we have to hold on, because we knew that this fellow was trying to buy now favors. Because he was just as nasty as the others. True enough, on 8th of May, 45, the train pulled into Theresienstadt, which is part of the Czech Republic. They handed over, the Germans handed over Theresienstadt to the Red Cross, and apparently on the 3rd of May, because some of their men got typhus as well. It's a sickness. And we arrived. We were all sick. By that time I was so weak, I was taken off on a stretcher into the hospital. As the stretcher carriers come to the hospital and looking for a bed for me, doctor comes, he tells them he does not need one. That means I was really very weak. Apparently I passed out for 6 weeks. When I got back to myself, so the Red Cross must have looked after me all right. Or that was just after the discovery of penicillin. So they injected me every 4 hours with penicillin injection. And they told me that my mother is waiting for me at home. So my mother survived. So I had a reason to get ready. But it was still October before I was strong enough to take the road. Again, road which the trains didn't operate properly yet. To take an overnight train to get from there in Theresienstadt to Košice. But it took about 4 weeks. And yeah, I got home. I was sick, very sick. Finished up in hospital. I got tuberculosis of the lungs and bones. Spent a couple of years in hospitals and sanatoriums already in Slovakia, the Tatra Mountains, which are special sanatoriums. I recovered. I really haven't been sick, very sick since.
Mm-hmm.
I worked very hard, physical work as an electrician and so on. I recovered completely. But I lost my, I don't know whether you ever noticed me.
Yeah, no,
The left side is not the same as the right side. They had to collapse my left lung.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big operation. Must have been one of the first operations. It was a big operation, and I remember there were a lot of young American student doctors watching it. First of its kind. Special operating chair, sitting like that. I could still feel like the bolt cutters cutting their ribs to get to the line. Yeah. Anyhow, I recovered completely. I can do things I can't run, for instance, join basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Maccabias. They had to change me. It was all right, but they had to change me off very quickly because I was out of breath.
Mm-hmm.
Get quickly out of breath. Otherwise, I'm all right.
Any more questions?
Yes. So, where did you actually go after the war?
After the war. Well, first of all, went home. And wanted to complete my studies. I signed up as an apprentice for radio repairs. But then Hungary became communist nation. And we were aboard the city in Slovakia,
Mm-hmm.
and the Hungarians came in large numbers over the border. And the community was looking for people, volunteers, who are fluent in 3 languages, German, Hungarian, and Slovak. They volunteered for it, to taking these Hungarians from our city
Mm-hmm.
to Vienna. I couldn't see anything wrong with it. I mean, so we go by train. We can't speak Slovak on the train, so they need somebody to talk for them. And we can't speak German, so I need to go with them to Vienna. I did about 6 trips, and on the 7th I was told, Fred, when you get to Vienna, don't come back. The Hungarians are complaining, and you are on the list.
Mhm.
So I stayed in Vienna. There's a well-known old hospital, Rothschild Hospital, which was built by the Rothschilds, and it became a refugee camp. I stayed there for a year, got a job there,
Mhm.
and waiting to be strong enough and to go to Palestine. At that time it was not.
Mhm.
In the meantime, my mother remarried. And married a man who had a brother living in Adelaide since 1934. So they came to Australia. And we met in Vienna, and they begged me to come to Australia. I said, no, I'm going to Palestine. And yeah, at that time, to go to Palestine, I had to go and see a doctor. The doctor advised me, you are healthy. At the moment there is a war there, which is still on, and you won't be able to survive. You got anywhere else to go, you better go there. Now, thinking about it later, somebody must have told the doctor that I have somewhere to go.
Mm.
And that my parents sent me already a visa, and the joint organization got me a ticket on the boat, and I came to Australia
Mhm.
in 1950, March.
March of 1950, okay. And what else have you got?
Just so you get that, when he was taking people across the borders in languages, that he was smuggling people across the borders. That was a movement. towards more
People
Africa.
smuggler. Like that.
Mhm.
I did not know how to get it support. I was too young, too stupid.
Mhm. What sort of things did you want to know about what happened after? Were there any particular questions in relation to prejudice?
Now you must
discrimination?
have some questions now.
Yes.
Chap, specific.
So do you still reflect on it, or do you try to block it out?
No, I'm not trying to block it out. I try to, but I'm working with the Holocaust Museum, you know that.
Yeah.
I tell my story virtually every day. Every time I'm in the Holocaust Museum to a class or a group. Today we went into the Holocaust Museum just to see whether, because there was a film to it there. On a Sunday, I have never seen so many people. Oh,
Mm.
it's amazing. Have you ever visited the Holocaust Museum?
I've been there.
You've been there.
Yeah.
You're with the school?
No, you haven't been there.
Your school?
I've been some.
You haven't. You've been to the
No,
Jewish
Jewish
Museum.
Museum.
A Jewish museum. That's
where you work,
that's on
yeah.
Alma. That's on Alma Road.
Yeah, no, he hasn't been.
We've-
But we're this
We've been
year.
past it.
Pardon?
This year we will go, and
Jason.
we'll call you when we go.
I'm there every Thursday afternoon.
Mhm.
And I'll be there on the 14th of June, Sunday.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we'll call you before. Ed, are there any other particular questions in terms of prejudice that you need to find out? Or
Not really in terms of prejudice. Just his general opinions.
yeah. Okay. So ask a couple
So,
more.
in your opinion, has the war changed people's perspective on other cultures and religions?
Have the people changed?
Yeah. From
For what? Anti-Semitism or something?
do you believe the war has changed how people treat other religions and cultures?
I really don't know. First of all, change. People where we lived on the farm, they were not happy to see us back. But they had to move out from our house.
Mm-hmm.
So not everybody was happy with it that we're still alive. Europe probably suffered a lot altogether, and the different governments changing, etc. In the war didn't give them the result what they hoped for, so they must have changed. I was just a child at that time, a youngster like you,
Mm-hmm.
before it. And we went back to our city. What year was it, Jake? You were with us.
Yeah, well, in 2002 we were in Auschwitz, but you also did it earlier with Anita
Yeah.
in 1995 or something.
And yes, life was back to normal as before,
Mm-hmm.
as I remembered it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, yeah. I remember when we went first time, went to see the farm, our farm, and the Russians horse brigade was still occupying the farm. So, and the amazing part, we are Hungarians at that time. We became from 38. The Budapest Jews, Hungary did not give up. The Jews from Budapest survived.
Yeah, well, what about...
Yet a lot of Jews were shot into the Danube. Well, one of my aunties, Piri, who lives in America at the moment, she was right through in Budapest. She didn't come back and she survived in Budapest. And we had family in Budapest that survived.
On the edge of the Danube, they've got this memorial there, just hundreds of shoes. They made the Jews take off their shoes before they shot them. It's a,
Very good.
it's an artist's sculpture, but it's just thousands and thousands of shoes. Just lined up on the Danube. The river ran red for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the Yugoslavs and the Bulgarians must have had a lot of blood in the Danube because the Danube
Flows through.
flows through Yugoslavia, Romania.
But do you think there's less prejudice
Into
in
the
the
Black
world
Sea.
today, Dad?
And
Do you think there's less prejudice in the world today?
maybe. One thing, one day we visited an old uncle of mine in Israel on a Friday evening. Mariette? It was Friday when we visited Uncle Lipot in Israel.
What difference does it make whether it was
Ah,
Friday?
no, somebody knocks on the door and she comes in. She sees me. She stepped back. She thought that she saw a ghost. She apparently was a nurse in Theresienstadt. And she was sure that she knew me. She was sure that I died. Died. Because most of the people died.
It's a small world.
Yeah, well, in the Jewish world.
Yeah, it is.
And that's it. And I've been telling my story. In Adelaide, I used to go to schools.
I know.
We didn't have museum. Country schools, schools all over the place. And the only thing is, I always tell the classroom, schools who come in, at the end, there's no other country like Australia. But you have, it's up to you to keep it that way. Because all it needs is some idiot coming up with some marvelous ideas, like Hitler, and you vote him in democratically, and the country can change.
That's right.
So the country has to remain like that at the ballot box. And make sure how you vote.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm telling you. When you come to that age, make sure how you vote and for who you vote. But not some kind of idiots come in and take, because Germany, Hitler was democratically elected.
That's right. All right, Fred, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.